Welcome on in, everyone. It's Malliem back with another weekly horror story. If you've got a story you'd like to share, feel free to post it to my subreddit linked below. We're picking up where we left off with Murder is Legal in My Small Town, Part 6. Don't forget to leave a comment if you want me to continue the series. And if you enjoy the show, hit that sub button for me. It helps a lot. Thanks!
Trigger warning for animal child brief suicidal ideation. You have been warned. Run away if you're uncomfortable, but at this point, it's part 6. You should know what you're getting into by now.
Kane Sinclair was not born a killer. I will say that diving through a trapdoor into oblivion was a stupid idea. I didn't sense an impact, but I did feel enough striking pain across my skull to know that I hit something. Hard enough to send me spiraling into the dark. So much for Alice in Wonderland. It wasn't the Mad Hatter I was following, however. For the third and final time, I re-entered Kane Sinclair's memories. You can have your opinions on whether human beings are born contorted out of shape. But I do know one thing. Jonas Isaacs gave him his emotions back, and the humanity he so desperately craved. Jonas made him feel like himself again. Against all odds, he was the miracle Darkroom didn't even know existed, a fictional entity strong enough to overload the despair that had shredded the boy's brain through the treatment, where his mind had been physically forced to enjoy his father and brother's murder. Now I was seeing his beginning. Admittedly, I thought Darkroom had engineered the boy from birth. However, I was wrong. In almost every memory of his that had bled into me, there was always a white room. This one was no different, though I think out of all the white rooms Kane Sinclair had found himself in, this one was his least favorite. Compared to the other memories I'd been forcefully subjected to, this one was cold. Icy shivers racking up and down his body, his small arms wrapped around himself for comfort. The room was too big. It was too white. The walls all looked the same. It reminded him of the time he had broken his arm. The emergency room. That was his first thought. Unlike the emergency room, however, there was no sign of a nurse or either of his moms. There were no windows or doors, and as his feverish gaze flicked back and forth, searching for a way out, panic began to twist and turn in his gut. He couldn't have been any younger than 6 or 7 years old, and I sensed contorted fear sending his stomach into his throat, the questions in his head demanding to know where his mommies were. It didn't make sense. His frightened thoughts slammed into me. Kane remembered being a different boy with a different name. He remembered chicken nuggets for dinner, watching Fairly Odd Parents with his older brother, and crying when he wasn't allowed to join the grown-up card game. He remembered his mother carrying him to bed, the sweet scent of her perfume clinging to her nightshirt, her warm arms wrapping around him as she tucked him in. He remembered his other mother standing in the doorway, singing to make him laugh. The boy fell asleep smiling, certain he would wake up to his favorite breakfast cereal and his mommy's morning kisses. But now, he was standing barefoot on ice-cold marble tiles in his pajamas, against a wall with a line of other children. The room was cold and scary, and he didn't like that there was no door. There was an older girl standing next to him, with blonde curls tied into pretty pigtails. She was clutching a stuffed toy, and immediately, Kane was jealous. Why am I not allowed a stuffed toy? Instinctively, Kane reached out for the girl's hand. It was a habit he'd had since he was a baby. When Kane was scared, he reached for something comforting nearby. Some kind of familiar touch or attachment was enough to calm him down. Usually it was his mom's or his older brother. Now it was the girl. Her hand was warm, and he liked that it was warm. It was almost as comforting as his mother's. To his surprise, the girl didn't pull away. She only stared ahead with wide eyes, and when he squeezed her hand, she squeezed back. That was enough. "What's your name?" the girl whispered, tightening her grip. Her nails hurt, but they were comforting, somehow. Maybe if he made friends with her, she'd hand over her toy. So he held on for dear life and pretended the girl wasn't squeezing the life out of him. "Felix," he squeaked. "But my mommies call me Fee." The girl turned and smiled at him. "Hi, Fee." When a woman with dark red hair stepped into the room holding a rabbit, then proceeded to snap its neck, the girl's clammy fingers tangled with his were enough. The other children screamed. Cain thought the woman was going to let them hold the rabbit. Instead, she held the dead thing by its ears, waving it around like a toy. "From now on, everyone, you are not going to cry," she said in a tone he couldn't ignore. When Cain dropped to his knees, his gaze fixed on the pooling red against the white tiles as the woman ripped the rabbit apart with her bare hands. He was cruelly yanked back to his feet. When he tried to cover his eyes, his hands were gently pinned behind his back. "You are going to laugh." Ignoring the screams, the frightened sobs, and the children frozen in horror, she continued mutilating the rabbit right in front of them. The memory jumped forward. This time, he was sitting cross-legged on a plastic chair in front of a man with funny eyebrows. "What's your name, young man?" "Felix," he said softly, staring down at the floor. "No. From now on, your name will be Cain." The man's smile curled. "Do you understand me, Cain?" "Cain," the boy said uncertainly. He wasn't sure of his new name, so he said the first thing that came to his mind. "Can I go home now?" "Do you have a mother, Cain?" The man tilted his head, and Cain shuffled back, folding his arms. "Yes," he said matter-of-factly. "I have 2 mommies." "No, you have a family here, remember? You have lots of brothers and sisters." Cain shook his head, and I felt the first prickles of confusion begin to blossom in his mind. "Nope. I just have my big brother Kai." The man's expression darkened. He turned in his chair and fumbled through his desk drawer. Cain leaned forward curiously before springing back when the doctor faced him again. He was holding what looked like a stethoscope. At least, it looked like one. Cain knew what a stethoscope was. But unlike a real stethoscope, this one had several circular metal discs instead of one. When one was pressed to his face, Cain laughed at how ticklish it felt. Then another was attached. And another. Slowly, Cain began to wonder if the man with the funny eyebrows was going to do something bad. When he leaned away, the man grabbed his shoulders and firmly pulled him forward. "Okay, Cain," he said gruffly. "I'm going to ask you some questions, and you're going to answer them. If you answer the questions incorrectly, you're going to get a small shock." Cain swiped at tears filling his eyes. "What kind of shock?" The man smiled. "It's just a prick, but it will get worse if you do not answer my questions correctly." When the first prickles of pain began after Cain proudly listed the names of his family, and even his dog, he realized he'd said the wrong thing. It started slowly, like stars filling his face and head. Scary, but manageable. Something he could grit his teeth through. Cain, can you please tell me who your family are? Again, he repeated his answer. I have 2 mommies. This time, the pain exploded. Agony rocked both our minds. I felt it, even as a lingering presence. I felt what had been forced onto this terrified 6-year-old boy. It wasn't stars anymore. It was lava. When the pain shook his body, when his small hands gripped the chair's armrest and desperately tried to rip the discs from his face, Cain's thoughts began to cloud. The man didn't help him. He simply watched, stoic, emotionless, even when Cain began screaming for his mommies, for Kai. It was when his mind finally went blank, when his eyes became unfocused and his grip on the chair loosened, that I realized the sheltered little boy who watched Fairly Odd Parents and craved touch and comfort was gone. Your family is here, at Darkroom, the man had told him through his screams. At first, Cain had fought it, tried to block it out, tried to plug his ears. But now he welcomed anything if it meant the pain would stop. If it meant the stars, the lava, the unbearable fire in his body and mind would finally disappear. Something in him shifted. Suddenly, like a switch being pulled. He stopped crying. His body relaxed into the chair. The man's lips curled into the faintest smile. Well? He asked, clearing his throat. I'll ask you one more time, Cain. Do you have any family? Uh-huh. The man leaned back, folding his arms. Would you like to tell me who they are? I have a family here, Cain whispered. I have lots of brothers and sisters. That's right, the man said softly. We're very happy to have you. After that day, the boy's mind worked very differently. Cain felt odd. But it was a good kind of odd. He was curious about the White Room instead of afraid of it. At lunch, he lined up all of his nuggets and pierced each one with his fork before eating. The White Room became a sort of classroom. The girl's hand he had insisted on holding during those first few weeks was no longer within reach. He didn't want to grab it anymore, and she no longer tried to hold him. The girl with the pigtails didn't cry like she used to. Instead, she stood with wide eyes, staring into thin air. Cain fell into a routine. He slept in his own room with the same white walls, and each day, he was taken to the big classroom where he was told to laugh. First, it was rabbits. Then people were brought in. It didn't hurt them. That was what he was told. These people and rabbits knew it was their time. They wanted to die. It was funny. At first, he didn't believe it was funny. Neither did the other kids. One boy called Luke said his mommy had told him all life on Earth deserved to live, and that even trees felt pain. His words were quickly twisted, however. Pain wasn't pain. It was a side effect of euphoria, happiness. Pain, the woman told them in a booming voice, was the reason people laughed. Why they felt happy. But Cain was skeptical. The rabbits definitely were not enjoying being ripped apart. The adults, forced onto their knees with knives pressed to their throats, screamed and begged for mercy. And he watched with wide eyes. No longer yearning for his mother's warm arms, Cain was one of the first to giggle. He wasn't sure why it was funny, but laughing, he quickly learned, earned him candy as a reward. Kids who cried were shoved to their knees and screamed at. So, he laughed. At first, he laughed because he didn't want to end up like Sim, who'd been dragged away kicking and screaming when she refused to laugh at the rabbit. But once he started, he couldn't stop. It spread like a virus, creeping into his brain, twisting and contorting his thoughts. Curiosity was burned away, replaced by a sudden, inexplicable urge to get closer to the horror unfolding before him. Cain wanted to see how the rabbit ticked. How it moved and hopped across tiles smeared in the brightest shade of red he had ever seen. And somehow, it made him smile. The second change in him was subtle at first, though it grew like a blossoming tumor. The more people were murdered before his unseeing eyes, the more his laughter twisted into hysterical giggles he couldn't control. When the mutilated animal was dropped in front of him, he kicked the pile of fur and laughed, triggering a sudden cacophony of giggles around him. The next day, he sat cross-legged in his room with the rabbit's decapitated head, frowning at its ears. How did it tick? How did it think? How did it hop? He laughed to himself, giggling into smeared red hands. Hop! Cain grabbed the head, bouncing it across the floor. Hop, hop, hoppity hop! As Cain's time in darkroom stretched on, he grew older. Though there was never an obvious marker of it, I sensed him aging. His thoughts matured as he went from 6 to 7 to 8. By 11 years old, he had been assigned a new family inside an apartment bugged with cameras broadcasting his every move. After what he had done to the rabbit at 7, ripping into its head and plunging his hands into the cavern of its skull while ravaged by that same relentless question, how does it tick? I expected him to become a sociopath. But Darkroom was clever. They didn't create psychopaths. Not yet. They planted a seed at a very young age, and through cocktails of drugs and subtle influence, Cain lived a relatively normal life inside his new home. There were moments, however, when his actions were heavily manipulated. He was left alone in the house with a meat carver resting on the countertop. His father had been dropping hints beforehand, obvious enough to engage whatever audience was watching, until they became almost comical.
Don't touch the knife, Cain,
his father would say in an exaggerated voice, feeding that ever-growing seed in Cain's mind. The hints worked. Cain didn't hesitate. He pushed a chair to the counter, climbed up, reached for the knife, and wrapped his fingers around the handle. For years, Cain never acted on these impulses. It wasn't until he was 14 that he finally gave in. Ben Matthews was his first friend. They bonded over their shared love of disturbing videos. Ben's mother was dying of cancer, which meant Ben wasn't always around. This irritated Cain enough to make him pace his room and chew his nails until his mouth tasted like blood. Ben's mother was a distraction. She needed to die. But when Cain revealed his brilliant plan to surgically open up her head to Ben, the boy was horrified. So Cain cracked his skull instead. At first, his swing missed. The bat slammed into concrete with a crunch, and Cain realized he liked that sound. But then, impact. Sweet, Sweet impact. He felt it in his teeth, a sharp thrum running through him that nearly brought him to his knees. He swayed where he stood, hysterical giggles bursting from his lips, even surprising himself. Ben stopped moving after 2 hits, but Kane's thoughts didn't stop. Now that he had quenched the urge clawing at him, another switch had flipped. This time, it was what remained of his humanity. He knew killing was wrong, but that seed in his mind was flowering. That unbridled pleasure flooded through him, and then through me. But it wasn't enough. Tilting his head, Kane strode toward Ben's body and brought the bat down again. Ben was already dead, but one question still buzzed through his mind. How did he tick? The human brain had always fascinated him. He vaguely remembered seeing one when he was younger. Frowning, he crouched beside the obliterated skull and reached out, fingers trembling as they stroked through shredded flesh and exposed fragments of brain. But instead of giving in fully, instead of digging deeper to uncover its secrets, Kane simply raised the bat again and swung. This time, Ben's eye popped free. Kane's lack of empathy confused him. He didn't cry, or at least, not much. Instead, he laughed until his stomach recoiled. He knew there was something deeply wrong with him. I could sense his panic, his fear of slipping entirely into the abyss. But Darkroom knew too. Every time he searched for therapists, his laptop mysteriously broke, or his phone vanished. Then he woke one day, foggy-minded, standing over the corpses of his father and brother. And reality hit him like ice water. There was something wrong. There's something wrong with me. The thought echoed when Ben's disappearance was never reported. It was as if Ben had never existed. Kane had tried to confess, but his father and brother always interrupted him with something else. Now, standing drenched in their blood, fully emerging from the fugue state that had consumed him, the sound that tore from his throat was deafening. His hands were slick, his body painted in scarlet. No, not them. Until that moment, Kane Sinclair had believed one thing with absolute certainty. No matter how broken he was, he would never hurt his family. But his brother's brains coated his hands. His knees slammed into the floor. I felt every ounce of agony that should have been buried, should have been erased, flood through him until he was choking on it.
Wrong!
He screamed over and over until his throat was raw.
Wrong! 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 Wrong!
His fist pounded against his skull. He sobbed, shook, clawed at himself. And I became more entangled not only with his mind, but with every emotion igniting inside him. His urge to kill himself. His desperate need to stop this insatiable hunger he didn't understand. Wrong. The word wouldn't leave him alone. His thoughts spiraled violently, driving him closer to madness. He whispered it to himself while scrubbing bloody hands in the bathtub, hypnotized by red water diffusing through the basin. Over the following days, sharp objects seemed to appear everywhere. A knife on his desk, a meat cleaver outside his brother's room. It was as if the world itself was urging him to keep going. He had already hidden the bodies in the closet. It wouldn't hurt to look. The thought struck, and suddenly he was standing before the closet door, gripping the stand handle. The meat cleaver felt heavy in his trembling hands. But before the impulse could fully bloom, it slipped from his fingers. Fuck. His hands tore at his hair, ripping out clumps. I'm going crazy. I'm wrong. Because part of it, no matter how much he tried to deny it, had felt good. Like a suffocating weight lifting from his chest. Part of him wanted to do it again. It was that horrifying realization, that singular thought, that finally snapped me back to reality. There was a voice, at first faint, then rising into a shrill scream. Reality started to settle in once I finally managed to pry my eyes open. Darkness surrounded me, a figure looming overhead. Kane's present self slowly swam into view. He was still wearing his hospital gown, floppy brown hair obscuring irritated eyes. I blinked rapidly, swallowing the shriek building in my throat. Dude. The boy's voice sounded wrong, like an echo reverberating inside my skull. There was a ladder, you know. Huh? I gingerly stroked the back of my head, my gaze flicking from his unamused expression to the crumbling ceiling above us. Tunnels, I thought dizzily. These had to be the tunnels underneath the fake town. When I slowly sat up, my vision began to clear. Kane was still wearing the same bloodied hospital gown from before, the identical trickle of red staining beneath his nose. The boy sighed. There was a ladder, he repeated. You could have used it instead of giving yourself a concussion. He waved his hand in front of my face. How many fingers am I holding up? I shooed his hand away and reached for him. To my surprise, he stumbled back, pulling a face. It's probably better if you help yourself up. His eyes darkened, lips curving into a smile. No offense. I slowly retracted my hand. Right, I muttered. Kane. Let's not go that far. I joined him, forcing myself upright while taking in our surroundings. Where are we? I squinted into the darkness. Are we still in Brightwood? I didn't notice him moving at first, only the faint blur of his silhouette slipping farther down the tunnel, his voice ricocheting off the walls. We're on the outskirts, he said. These tunnels are sometimes used for performers to get where they need to be. He paused. You know, like Disneyland. I'm not completely clued into these tunnels. I just know Sim told me about them. I struggled to keep pace, his shadow phasing in and out of view. Right, I breathed. And do you have a plan? He chuckled. No, but you do. Meaning, I shot back. It's better not to ask questions. Kane quickened his pace, and I scrambled after him, splashing through puddles of murky water and what I could only assume was waste. We're almost there, he murmured. Down here should be the control room. If you climb up from here, you should be able to get Annalise. There's a hatch in the door, and a handle to pull it open. I doubt there are guards since they're mid-broadcast. Usually they all head into the viewing room. Or, as we infamously call it, the room of wall people. A breathy laugh escaped him. Try the laughing track room first. They could be disposing of her, or they may have already moved her to the red room to start reprogramming. I'll probably be in there too. Those bastards can't wait to wipe me clean. It wasn't until I started climbing, one foot on a rusted metal prong, my hands gripping cold steel, that his words truly registered. What? I twisted around, bile creeping up my throat. Wait, aren't you coming? You're running out of time, he snapped. You need to get Annalise out of that fucking death room. But you said, he cut me off. No, you thought it. When I could only gape at him, Kane sighed, and this time I felt it deep inside my skull. Do you really think I just magically got away from them after they successfully ripped Jonas out of me? And I'd wear this to a rescue. He gestured to his bloody gown hanging off of him. His words sent icy slithers down my spine. Be serious, Elle. Come on. I thought you were smart. Kane's voice followed me as I forced myself to climb, and I swore I could feel the prickling sensation of his breath on the back of my neck. Keep going. Almost there. Just a little more. Light began to bloom faintly above me. Who are you? I managed to choke out. The more I questioned him, the more I realized he was right. Kane had never escaped Darkroom while I was trapped reliving his memories. I thought back to him vanishing through the trapdoor at my fake mother's bathroom, Jonas's trembling hands morphing into my own as I desperately grasped for the handle. Slowly, everything started falling into place. Possibly an echo? Honestly, I have no idea, he hummed. I'm a footprint left behind after they forced his memories into you, and I'm all tangled up in your subconscious. It's either that or you can't stop thinking about me. I spluttered out a laugh. You're kidding. His tone was icy sarcasm. Surprisingly, talking to your subconscious disguised as your classmate who you have buried feelings for is possible. I didn't say romantic feelings, he groaned. What I do know is, why am I taking up most of your mind right now? I felt him closer somehow, his breath warm against my skin. Do you have a little crush? You mutilated my sister and kidnapped me, I gritted out. It's truly a mystery why I can't stop thinking about you. I kept climbing. If you were physical right now, I'd kick you down. He laughed, but there was a tease to it. Well, shiver me timbers. I am terrified. He coughed. It is kind of weird, though. Why do you have feelings for a killer? Shut up. I didn't say anything, he said. It's not my fault you're the one thinking it. The light above me grew brighter. I could hear footsteps overhead. So, I swallowed hard, climbing faster. Which one are you? He scoffed. Why? Do you have a favorite? It's a hard choice, right? The junior varsity captain, or the brainwashed freak who murdered your parents? The boy sighed when I didn't respond. I'm both. His tone softened. I don't have much time. Your sister and I are their best assets. But the words choked me. If this version of him existed, tangled between Jonas and Kane, then maybe Jonas wasn't gone. Maybe he was still buried somewhere inside. My subconscious, wearing Jonas's voice, read me instantly. I'm pretty sure we're both about to get Ava's treatment. I froze. Ava? Ava was for influencers who didn't respond well to Red Room. If any of us got Ava, it was basically a death sentence. If you think I'm a psycho now, wait until Ava's finished with me. His voice was quieter now. The user on influencers they really want to make an example of. Even the fucked up ones were scared of her. That bitch was the physical embodiment of a warning. The Red Room procedure is permanent, but as you saw with me, it weakens over time. Jonas's implanted humanity started breaking through. If you don't want me to sugarcoat it, they're using Ava to make sure Jonas never comes back. I couldn't breathe. And, Kane sighed, You won't be able to save me this time. They want to build a brand new Cain, one that was never tainted by Jonas. The one they engineered from 8 to 15. The one who sliced your sister's brain apart, Elle. Annalise. Cain's memory was still fresh in my mind, his intoxicating delight as he sliced the blade through her flesh. But they haven't, I found myself saying through gritted teeth. This time his voice was faded, more like an echo rattling through my skull. They haven't done anything to you, I repeated. Darkroom couldn't have done that. I swallowed hard. Using Ava, I mean, because you still exist. That's not how it works, Elle. I climbed faster, his tone sending my heart catapulting into my throat. What's that supposed to mean? I waited for Cain's reply, but it never came. His voice, along with the lingering presence inside my head, faded away completely. Before I knew it, I was alone, drowning in suffocating silence and my own ragged breaths as I reached the control room, clutching the ladder for dear life. Following his instructions, I blindly reached for the metal hatch and pulled it open. No sign of anyone. When I peeked my head through, the place was exactly what I had expected. A massive room lined with TV screens, all connected to one terrifying device through a sprawling maze of wires. I saw my face, Jessa Pollux, Jonas, Joey Cunningham, all of us smiling widely with blank, oblivious eyes. Cain was right. There was nobody there. Pulling myself through the hatch, I straightened, surveying the room. Cain said the red room was next door. My heart lodged itself firmly in my throat as I started toward the exit. But something stopped me. A familiar presence slithered back into my body and mind. This time, it fought to take control, yanking me back. Wait! Cain's voice was now a sharp inhalation scraping through my skull. I felt phantom hands seize my shoulders as a tidal wave of his emotions crashed over me. Terror. It cut through me like a blade, followed by agonizing pain throbbing in the back of my head. But it wasn't mine. It was his. Something... His voice trembled as I felt him using me, frantically searching for pursuers. Elle, something is... He cried out suddenly, a gut-wrenching screech that nearly sent me to my knees. Fuck! His whimper collapsed into a sob, and I spiraled with him, drowning in the darkness, swallowing him whole. Worse than the red screen that had twisted his mind. Worse than the rods scrambling his brain into mush. This was merciless. His cries flooded my thoughts, morphing into childish broken wails. Please, there's something in my head.
Elle.
The familiar voice sputtering from an intercom brought me back to reality. I knew him. It was the gruff murmur who had mentally tortured Cain, who told me to be still when I struggled, strapped to a table when he pressed metallic plates to my forehead and face. The doors in front of me slid open automatically, and several guards came through.
Wait.
The man cleared his throat.
There is no need for that. I want RL to learn the hard way.
The hard way? A spotlight flickered on, illuminating me. When I tried to get away, the light followed my frantic, dancing footsteps until I was pressed against the wall. Cain's voice had been cruelly severed inside my head. I couldn't hear his cries anymore. I couldn't feel him, that familiar tangle of our thoughts and memories interloped together. He was my only inclination that Cain, or Jonas, was worth saving. That I could walk out of Brightwood with both Jonas and my sister.
Elle, if If you would like to turn your attention to the screen in front of you, I would like to show you something.
Annalise. I choked on her name. Where's my sister? My voice came out more like a choked sob. I didn't realize how close I was to breaking down until I said her name.
Ah, yes. Your sister is fine. In fact, due to a sudden boost in popularity on her polls, Annalise Duval will remain in Brightwood. Our original plan was to dispose of her. The girl's mental state was definitely a problem we could not risk. However, that is where the Red Room comes in.
His voice reminded me of a reality TV show host.
We will not be focusing on Annalise. Trust me, your sister has her own very special part to play. But we're not quite there yet.
What? The screen in front of me lit up by footage of Sim and Kane slicing open my mother's throat. It was visceral, sending me stumbling back, my stomach lurching into my throat.
Almost 14 million views in a single day, outperforming every major network TV show. Who wants to watch Euphoria when they can watch you?
The scenes were edited, zoomed in, slowed down, each one meticulously entwined with catchy, chart-topping tracks. The announcer's voice slithered over the footage.
Let me be candid for a moment, sweetheart. Don't pretend you don't like it. We showed you exactly what Loverboy did. This time from his perspective, and somehow, you still pity a psychopath. You are proof, young lady, that people don't want stable relationships. They don't want to build families. No. Humans want to be controlled, dominated. You willingly chose to fall for your parents' killer. You are documented proof that beneath societal expectations and moral inhibitions, we are all animals with suppressed urges.
I ignored him. Where is he? I swallowed, choking on a raw cry threatening my lungs. I was proving him right. Where's my sister? His laugh sent shivers crawling down my spine.
There it is. Unfortunately, your reunion will have to wait. Kane Sinclair is sick. It's rooted deep within his brain, a poison that has infected his thoughts and undone all of our hard work. Our viewers fell in love with Kane, L, who provided us content since he was a child. Jonas was never part of the plan. He was an anomaly, a thorn in our side. Humanity, where we wanted none. Can you believe that? After all that conditioning at just 6 years old, empathy still managed to grow inside him.
The man spat into the microphone.
Darkrooms, disgraced, king.
He sighed.
What do we say, audience? Do we want to see Jonas? How about for one last time?
The screen flickered again, and this time I was staring at a small room with light green walls. There was nothing inside except a single wooden chair, and strapped to it was Jonas. I could tell it was Jonas because his eyes were wild and feral with fright, desperate to get away. But there was also a part of him that was Kane, snarling like an animal, screaming threats through the speaker.
Get me out.
He growled.
Get me the fuck out of here.
His eyes found the camera.
Annalise.
Pulling against the restraints pinning him down, he struggled violently, attempting to kick himself free of the chair.
You have seen the Red Room procedure, correct?
The man's voice was nothing but a low murmur in the back of my head as I struggled to take in the boy's state. He was exactly what I'd hoped. enough Jonas to retain his humanity, while the lingering parts of Cain fought like an animal.
Elle, I asked you a question.
The words slipped from my mouth before I could stop it. I have.
Good. Now allow me to introduce what we call a last resort. Cain Sinclair is too soft. Poisoned by the faulty tooth, the boy is now a liability to Darkroom, and we cannot have that.
He choked out a laugh.
All of our hard work for one of our influencers to be kicked off the very program they have spent their entire lives on? Cain will rejoin Brightwood. We will be bringing the boy back to his precious roots. Elle!
His voice sent slithers of ice down my spine.
Elle, can you hear me?
His frantic gaze scanned the room.
They're using me to break you.
He panted.
And then they're going to use Annalise.
He rocked against the chair, cursing.
But you can't let them get into your head, okay? They want a fucking show. Don't give them one. Leave the two of us and get the fuck out! See? What did I tell you guys?
The man said, addressing the audience.
Come on, Elle. Will you kill him or kiss him?
I dropped to my knees, my eyes stinging. Somehow his words choked me, suffocated me. The announcer sighed over Jonas's vocal death threats.
The boy is out of his mind, and not in the way our audience wants.
I glimpsed a shadow bleed into existence behind the struggling boy. A red-haired woman. The same redhead who had snapped the rabbit's neck in front of 6-year-old Cain and a dozen other children. I had already felt this, I thought dizzily, feverishly watching the red-haired woman produce 2 needle-like rods. Through him. When the first rod entered the back of his skull and Cain's body jolted, a screech ripping from his lips, I felt my knees hit the ground.
Really, Elle, if now is the time for honesty, we would like to admit that this isn't all about Cain Sinclair. In fact, we are more than confident that he will be exactly who we want him to be once he has been corrected.
Something catapulted me to my feet, and I was stumbling, staggering toward the door, throwing my fists against it. The stupid thing wouldn't open. Cain! I spoke through the gutter of my throat. I'm going to get you out of there.
No!
He wailed.
No, run! Get the fuck away from here, please!
He threw his head back, teeth gritted.
It's too late for me.
No, I'll get you out! I shrieked, wrestling with the door handle. I promise. Just hold on.
Aw, so cute. Call out for your man, Elle.
The announcer's words sent my thoughts into a tailspin as I battered my fists against rusted metal. Ow! Cain's capitulating whimper was suddenly amplified around me. It was so loud, blasting through every speaker. His shuddering breaths crackled through static. I need to tell you something, he gritted out. It has to be now. I froze, my bones stiffening. I straightened, my fingers slipping from the handle. I don't want to know. Your sister, he whispered. I hurt Annalise. I killed your parents. You were a child. I spat, swallowing something poisonous. Something I was scared I wouldn't regret. Cain. I shook my head, lungs heaving. I could see the white room again. See his tiny fingers wrapping around a decapitated rabbit's neck. Felix, I corrected myself, and he squeezed his eyes shut. I know they tortured you. They fucking hurt you. I swallowed my own sobs. You didn't mean it. I did, he choked. Part of me His pain cry crept through me. Part of me still wants to crack your head open and see what's inside. Just like I did to your sister. I still want to know what makes you tick. Stop! I slammed my hands against the door, but when I realized it had gone too quiet, that the announcer was no longer speaking, I twisted around, my mind reeling. Why so quiet? I demanded, my voice cracking. Is this what you want? I kicked the door, a frenzied grin tearing across my lips. Come on! I screamed at the invisible announcer. Fucking say something! And then I shattered, right there on the spot, collapsing to my knees as poison threatened to spill from my lips. That day, Kane's voice cracked as Ava jerked his head by his scalp. In the coffee shop, when it was just the two of us. His half-lidded eyes found the camera, a single tear slipping down his cheek. I had orders to murder your family right in front of you. But he sniffled, his jaw falling slack, lips parting in a silent cry when another rod was plunged into his skull. You were the most beautiful girl I had ever seen. And it changed something in me. His breathless sobs dissolved into a laugh, beads of red slipping from his parted mouth. You fixed me, Elle. You made me feel human. I wouldn't have found myself. Hell, I wouldn't have found Jonas if it wasn't for you. A love confession? The announcer's voice burst through suddenly.
Oh, I have tears in my eyes.
His voice somehow rose above Kane's screams for death as he rattled against the chair, beads of red beginning to slip from his mouth and nose. Kane's screams collapsed into laughter, gibberish twisting on a tangled tongue, his expression warping from pain and terror into the beginnings of a grimace that curled into a smile. I stopped throwing myself against the door. It was the same smile he wore when he gagged my screams as Sim thrust her knife into my father's skull. I became suddenly aware of my own cry, my clammy palms pressed over my ears, trying to block out the memories once again bleeding through me and taking a vicious, unrelenting hold.
Consider this your very own Red Room treatment, Elle.
The announcer chuckled.
We are finished with Kane Sinclair. He is exactly what we need him to be. You, however. Oh, we love your little tantrum. Truly adorable. But sweetheart, we think you need a little push.
Then the boy suddenly went limp, his grips on the armrest loosening, his head bowing forward onto his chest. The announcer continued speaking even when Kane on-screen wasn't moving, and the red-haired woman was wiping the ends of the rods with a handkerchief.
Behold, Elle, your first peek into your own personal despair. Which...
Now he was addressing the audience directly, his tone a shrill squeal of excitement.
Will finally give us our endgame.